Everybody, Anthony here. It is Thursday, March 6th, 2025, 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Today's study is entitled, Messiah is just rephrasing the Torah. And we're going to look at that. We're going to read Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9 through 13, and then we're going to read a few verses in the book of John and show you how that correlates. If you remember, a few days ago, I posted a study called the obdurate heart, or the stubborn heart. And that study, we talked about Messiah was in his hometown of Nazareth, and he was teaching in their synagogues, but yet he couldn't do any miracles. He couldn't do anything for them because of their unbelief. But what he was doing in their synagogues, he was teaching them. What do you think he was teaching them? He was teaching them Torah. He was teaching from the Tanakh, or what we call today the Old Testament. It's anything but old. A lot of people think old means done away with. That's the farthest thing from the truth. When we look at sound doctrine, we have to look at first, what did Messiah teach? Messiah taught the Torah. He taught the writings. He taught the prophets. He taught the Tanakh, the Old Testament. Then we look at in the New Covenant, at the other writers, and they have to line up with what Messiah taught. That's how we have to search things out and prove them out, okay? Because the Bible talks about prove all things. So we have to understand what Messiah taught. So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9 through 13. Now therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. Verse 10. And he repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hateth him. He will repay him to his face. Verse 11. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I command thee this day to do them. Okay, there's that word to do again, action. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that the Lord thy God shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he swore unto thy fathers. Last verse, verse 13. And he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb, in other words, your offspring, and the fruit of thy land, everything that you plant and you grow, and etc. Thy corn, thy wine, thine oil, and the increase of thine kine. Okay, I think that's the birds and the flocks of thy sheep, in the land which he swore unto your fathers to give thee. Okay, that's Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 9 through 13 in the Tanakh of the Old Testament, the first covenant. In the renewed covenant, the Brit Hadashah, Messiah, we pick him up in John 14. But in Deuteronomy 7, 9 through 13, it talked about guarding covenant and having a loving commitment. You're destroyed for not obeying. He said that in verse 10. He wants you to guard his commandments. Verse 11, verse 12. Hear, guard, and then you're in covenant and have a loving commitment. In other words, it's a marriage. You heard of the marriage supper of the Lamb? Those that go into the New Jerusalem will celebrate the marriage supper. You're married to Messiah. You're in a covenant relationship. If you commit adultery, which is doing the opposite of what its commandments say, you're breaking your part of the covenant. Okay? Verse 13, he talks about that he will love and bless you, not only you, but your offspring, your land, your flocks, etc. Now listen to what Messiah says in John chapter 14, verse 21. He that hath my commandments and keepeth them, it is he that loveth me, and he that loveth me shall be loved by my Father. And I will love him and will manifest myself to him. Okay? So if you do not have the commandments, then the opposite is true. Okay? Verse 23, John 14:23. Jesus answered and said unto him, if a man love me, he will keep my words. And my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him. John 14:24. He that loveth me not, keepeth not my sayings. He that loveth me not, keepeth not my sayings. And the word which ye hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me. So Messiah, all he's doing, if you look at these verses side by side, John 14, 21, 23, and 24, and then line them up with Deuteronomy 7, 9 through 13, you'll see that all Messiah is doing is rephrasing the Torah. He's not creating some new law, new commandments, or telling you the commandments are going to be done away with and you don't have to follow them. There's no more Torah. That's a lie. So we have to look at what Messiah taught, look at what the Word says, and make sure they align. That is sound doctrine. You want to make sure your doctrine is sound. And so much today is being pushed out there that we could do anything we want. We have liberty as long as we believe in Christ or believe about him. We're saved, and we have this eternal security, but yet you don't even know if you're in covenant with him. Are you in covenant with him? Read these verses today and say to yourself, am I in covenant with Messiah? What does that mean? Am I keeping his words, his sayings? He says it in the book of John. Yochanan is telling us what Messiah taught. And he says at the end of the book that he taught so much more. I didn't even have time to write it. It would take up all the books in the library if I tried to write everything that Messiah did and taught. That's how much he did. But John tells us and shows us, and in his book, 1 John, he goes into further detail and talks about what sin is. Sin is breaking the commandments. It's not just missing the mark. It's breaking of the commandments. What are the commandments? They're in the Torah. So see today that Messiah is just rephrasing the Torah. He's not replacing it with something new. He did what his Father sent him to do. That's what he says in verse 24. The words which you hear are not mine, but the Father's which sent me. He's the ambassador for the Father. If I'm an ambassador for President Donald Trump and I go to another country and I start spewing the opposite of what President Trump's agenda is, I'm not an ambassador anymore. I'm going to get fired. The ambassador does exactly what the king sent him to do. And the Father sent Messiah to live out the Torah, to teach it, to show how to apply it. He lived it out righteously, and he scolded and chastised those that were adding to it, taking away from it, subverting it, not following it, etc. That's what he did. So understand that. Messiah is just rephrasing the Torah, and we could see the correlation between love and obedience. And that's the study today. Go back and reread and read again the scriptures. Anthony signing off. Y'all bless everybody.